Everyone should be a dealer, at least once, and here's why. Over the past few weeks, I've been discussing the importance of knowing what cards are worth. The true value of the cards, not what some hypothetical or mythical person might pay for them in the future. If you want to be a serious collector and stay in the hobby for a very long time, the first thing you need to understand is how much your cards are actually worth. And the minute you have to step behind a dealer table, guess what? You have to price your cards. If you don't know what your cards are worth, you could end up selling them in 5 minutes because you're so far below market value, or you could sell nothing because you're so far above market value. Which brings us to the topic of this week's show. How hard is it to be a dealer? Cue the intro.
Sports show every Friday, hot take, where's the market, behind the scenes from the car shows to the streets. There's only one show, there's only one show I wanna watch.
Welcome back to EDI Sports Show. I'm your host, Doc Schwartz, and we have a huge show this week. This is what we're getting into this week. Here you go. That's the topic. Why everyone should be a dealer at least once. And I know a lot of you are really scared at that idea. Who, me? I don't want to get behind a dealer table, and I understand. But what I hope that everyone who wants to be a serious collector and stay in this hobby for a very long time is I hope that you listen to this show, hear my arguments, and then make a decision at the end of that. I hope that you come to the conclusion that you should be a dealer at least once in order to stay in this hobby. And this is the reason why you need to know what cards are worth. Now, I understand that that's not such an easy thing to do. I get that, but that's why over the last several weeks I've been talking about what card values are, how you get to card values, how do you figure out what should you buy cards at, like what's a reasonable price to pay so that you don't get, as Jeff Wilson used to say, you don't take a bath on these cards.
I took an absolute bath on. Worst trade of my life was trading for that card.
Before we get into this week's show, I want to go over a couple things. First, we're going to get to your viewer comments at the very end of this show, but I wanted to highlight this one question from this viewer just because I thought it was so important for this week's show. So here it is. And this is the question. My question to you is, which player cards would be a good target to add to the PC if I had $300 to $500 to spend right now? And this is what I want you to know. We're going to get to this question at the end of this show. But as you watch, I want you to think about this question as we go through each segment this week. So first is that there are 2 Google forms that I want you guys to be aware of. So there's first if you're buying sports cards, there's a Google form for that. And if you're selling sports cards, there's a Google form for that. The reason why I make these videos, the reason why I have this channel, the reason why that I create all these forums is because I'm trying to build a network, a community of sports card collectors. I'm trying to do the best that I can to help this hobby. And the only way that I can do that is through this channel for you guys. Now, just hit 2,000 subscribers, so I want to thank everybody for hitting the subscribe button. We are building something together. This is at the beginning stages of building a larger community. And so if you're wondering why you should fill out those Google Forms, and again, I appreciate everyone that's already done that. There are many people that have filled out these Google Forms. And the reason that you should do that is because you are no longer alone. What I am outside the sports card hobby is a 21st century leader. And what that means is that I know how to bring together people for a common cause. This is our common cause, the sports card hobby. I am not a gatekeeper. I'm not trying to tell people what to do. I'm just trying to inform you based on my experience, based on my mistakes and also my wins. And I have many of them in both sides of the ledger. Yes, I have many wins and I have many losses. And what I want to be able to do is I don't want to necessarily get you to not make any mistakes, because to be honest, mistakes help you learn, and mistakes are good in life. You should make mistakes. Here's the thing that I don't want. I don't want you to make a mistake that puts you in a hole. If you overpay for a card by $5 or $10, not a big deal. But if you overpay for a card by $1,000, $2,000, or you're putting down $50K for a card or even a collection, you should know what you're getting into. And the problem is that there's not a lot of good information, especially on YouTube or online, about the sports card hobby. There are some channels that do a decent job, at least of telling you what the scammers are and what the things that you should be aware of. But there's no other channel that I can find that talks about how to actually be a real collector. Again, collecting is a personal thing. What you want to collect is up to you. What I collect is up to me. But there are certain principles within collecting that you should be aware of. And we're going to go over those within this show. Next week, what we're going to do, I'm going to tease it right now. So next week, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the principles of curating a collection. I know I've been holding on to that stuff. I think I teased that video way back in April when I went to the Arizona State Card Show in Phoenix. There is another one coming up. If you want to see me at the Arizona State Show, if you're in Phoenix, for Fall League Baseball, it's November 8, 9, and 10 at the Phoenix Convention Center. I hope to see you there. Again, if you see me, please stop me. I'll take a picture with you. I have no problem talking to my fans. Again, at this point, I have 2,000 subscribers, so I must know somebody out there. But anyway, let's get into this week's show without further ado. So why should you be a dealer? At least once. And here's the reason why. What if I could tell you that I know what your cards are going to be worth in the future? I know you might be saying, no, that's totally not true. Doc, how? You don't have a crystal ball. You can't tell me what my cards are going to be worth in the future. And here's the thing is, yeah, I might have a better idea of what your cards are going to be worth than you really think. And so here what I want to do. I want to show you some stuff, and then we'll get to why I think I can predict what that 101 Shohei Ohtani might be worth in the future. So what I'm going to do is, and I save, these tuxedo boxes just to help me keep things organized, but I'm going to show you a few just commons from T206. Okay, so these are very old cards. These are from the early part of the 20th century. We're talking about 1908, 1909 through 1911. Again, there's no real way to date these cards in terms of was it 08, 09, 10, 11. They're part of a set that just kept coming out. And again, none of us were alive, so I honestly don't know unless we could go back to some historical records to find out, well, how did they print these and how do you know which card came out which year? That I don't know. And if any historians are out there that know anything about these T206 cards, please let us know, like, how do you know which one's a 1908, which one's a 1909, and which one's a 1910 or 11? So these are all T206s. Now, what I want to make this very, very clear is when I bought these, and again, all of these, and I have other boxes of very old vintage cards that I bought way back in the late 80s and it was at one show. And I remember the show vividly because, again, it was a huge show. It's where I met Mark McGuire. I got his card autographed. And again, his arms were twice the size of mine. He was a big, big dude. Anyway, I got all of these cards at that show, which was the King of Prussia show way back in the late 80s. It was one of the largest shows I'd ever been to at that time. I might have been either 14 or 15 years old. Again, walking around as a teenager, it's overwhelming. And so anyway, I bought all of these, or my dad bought all of these for me, because I basically said to him, he goes, well, what should we buy? And I said to him, again, at the age of 14 or 15, we should buy the oldest card that we could possibly find. And he looked at me and he was like, okay, that's an interesting strategy. And he's like, why? I said, because I don't know, the oldest cards might just be the best strategy. Like, I don't know. I think that anything in the modern era is, quick sales, and anything that's really old and antiques always retain some value in the future. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. And again, as a teenager, I guess I had some prescient understanding of that, but these cards are antique. Even though there are sports cards, they're antique sports cards. Like it's not, they're not vintage necessarily. I mean, they are, but they're antique sports cards. And that's the issue that I want, or the thing that I want people to understand. So anyway, how much are these cards actually worth? And that's the point, is what are these cards worth? They're worth around, I mean, based on the condition, some of these are pretty nice. They're worth around, ungraded, maybe about $60 to $100 each. Probably you could probably pick them up for around maybe 50 to 60 if they're in not so good condition. These would probably go between $60 to $100. Again, ungraded. Graded, they can go several $100s each. And then if you have any Hall of Famers and stars, then, well, unfortunately, here's the thing that people need to understand. Only Hall of Famers people know today. So if you go back to 1908, you're not going to know what a star was. Like, who was a star player? You're only going to know the Hall of Fame players. And the reason is because you have no one to talk to. You can't ask someone, well, who was the most popular player back then? There's nobody around. Like, everybody's gone. So unless there's newspaper articles, unless somebody wrote a journal and basically recorded and documented, this is the most popular player. Today, obviously Shohei Ohtani is the most popular player. But what if, Julio Rodriguez, he doesn't turn out, his career doesn't pan out. Or here's a better example. How about Jose Canseco? Jose Canseco is a cultural icon. If you followed baseball in the 80s and the 90s, Jose Canseco was the man. First 40-40 player in the history of Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani just did 50-50. But Jose Canseco never made the Hall of Fame. So 60 years from now or 80 years from now, is anyone going to remember who Jose Canseco is? And that's my point, is no one knows who the stars of this league were way back in the early part of the 20th century. We only know the Hall of Famers. So if you have a star, again, a Hall of Famer that's graded, that could be worth several $1,000. And that's the point. So all of the cards that you're collecting, if they're not Hall of Famers, are they really all that valuable in the future? Now, I don't know how long you're looking to hold on to your cards, and that's the thing that you have to make that decision. Are you holding on to your cards for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 or 40 years? And if you're holding on for that long, here's what you need to know. Your cards are not going to be worth what you think they're worth that far into the future. It's just not going to happen. These cards are antique. These cards are so much rarer than all of the one-on-ones that you have. I'm sorry, that's the truth. There are so many one-of-ones in the hobby that they make these look even rarer. And that's my point, is that you're not looking at the context of what's going on. So if this card, which I don't know, there's probably a few hundred of them left in the world, there's not many of these cards left. There are not many of them. Now, graded wise, there's even less. Probably of these cards, I don't know exactly what the pop counts would be, because again, we don't have very good records of pop counts. So no one knows how many ungraded cards there are, and we only know what the graded ones are. But again, that's what people sent in. So there's not many of these cards floating around. You're not going to go to a card show and just see them all over the place. Maybe there'll be one dealer, maybe there'll be two, but that's only if you go to a really big show, maybe like the Burbank show or Dallas card show. I've seen them obviously at the Phoenix card show. Obviously the big show that Fanatics did in New York, you're going to see these kinds of cards. But the issue is that those are only going to be graded and they're going to be at the higher end because the dealers only pay for Hall of Famers. So what about the non-Hall of Famers? Like I said, these are between $60 to $100 depending on condition. So what's your one of one going to be worth? Even if you get it graded, what's your one of one going to be worth? And that's my point, is if you're paying, let's say, $500 or $1,000 for your one of one today, it's not going to be worth $500 or $1,000 in the future. These are only worth $60 to $100. Even with inflation, it's just not going to be worth that. It might be worth $500 in the future. It might. That's if people want those players, and they probably won't. They're going to want, again, the hobby is always current. They're going to want the new stars and the new hyped up players. That's what everybody needs to understand, and that's why I want you to be a dealer. That's why I want you to go behind the table, and I want you to start selling your stuff. Because when you know what stuff is worth, and you know what people are looking for, you start to make better decisions as to, oh, should I plop down $3,000 for this card? Maybe not. It's probably not going to be worth that. Now, I'm going to show you some novelty stuff, and the reason I say it's novelty is because a lot of these cards that the manufacturers like Topps, Bowman, Fanatics, Panini put out, they're novelty cards. They're not traditional cards. So this one is a big 1984 Nolan Ryan. Okay, so again, Nolan Ryan is huge now, so this card is actually worth something. I don't know how much. Again, it's ungraded. And just so that we're, on the same page, I personally find SGC slabs very attractive. Like, to me, if you put this in an SGC slab, it's going to look really awesome. Just like this card to me looks awesome. And just like this card to me looks awesome. I just think the tuxedo look makes the cards look more regal. Again, it's a tuxedo look. I think this is a better look for me than PSA, which kind of looks just like, like somebody just put it in a piece of plastic. This one is dressed up. That's why I like it. If you put this in a tuxedo slab, it's dressed up. To me, as a collector, if I'm going to grade something, I want it to be something that I can display. PSA, I understand the bias. PSA is worth more than SGC. I get it. I understand. Although now SGC and PSA are both under the collector's umbrella, so they're owned by the same company. There's no reason anymore for either company to be worth more than the other. And to be honest with you, SGC over the last decade has been way more consistent in their grading criteria than PSA. Literally, you can send in a card to PSA and you can get any grade that the grader wants to give it. It's not based on anything of fact, because you can unslab it, like crack it open, send it back to PSA and get a different grade. You gotta be kidding me. Like, you've got to be kidding me. If there's no criteria, if there's no basis in your grading system in which you can send a card in and get a 7, crack it open, send it back and get a 9, then your graders don't know what they're doing. And that's PSA at this point. But here's another novelty item. Again, not worth all that much. But here is a Fernando Valenzuela rookie in a sealed cello. Again, I have a whole bunch of these sealed cellos. So this was an 81 Fernando. Again, not worth very much, maybe $40. Now, what did it cost way back in the day? I think this cost, it said 49 cents. So this cost 50 cents back in the day in 81. And now it's worth 40. So I mean, that's what you need to understand, is that when cards were only selling for pennies on the dollar, the appreciation is significant. From 49 cents to $40 is huge. It's huge. The problem is when you're paying $100, $500, or $1,000 for a wax box, it's got nowhere to go. You're already at the premium level, and it can only go down in the future. Honestly, it can only go down in the future. But here's another, again, novelty item, and this is where I'm talking about in terms of like, if it's not a star, you know, if it's not a Hall of Famer, again, if it's a star, that you're probably gonna get screwed. So this is an autographed. Okay, so I have the certificate of authenticity. This is a Drew Bledsoe autograph card. Now, the reason that I bring this up, okay, and I even have a case for it, that all came together in this whole thing. The reason that I bring up Drew Bledsoe is because he was the starter on the New England Patriots before Tom Brady. If he didn't get hurt, we never heard of Tom Brady. End of story. And that's my point, is that Drew Bledsoe was going to be the quarterback that would have won the Super Bowl in 2000. Drew Bledsoe. He was the number one quarterback in the league, not Tom Brady. Tom Brady was picked in the 6th round. Nobody knew who Tom Brady was. Nobody cared who Tom Brady was. They didn't. Everyone cared about Drew Bledsoe. Now, Drew Bledsoe is not in the conversation. And this is my point, is that you're spending a ton of money on current stars, not Hall of Famers, stars, that may not pan out. Somebody was asking me a question about the quarterbacks in the NFL, like which guys are probably the best to kind of buy and sell right now. And I said, this was before the season, I said Kyler Murray is probably the best quarterback to try to pick up cards cheap and then sell them during the season. Because I think that the Cardinals are going to do better than people think. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to do better. And with Marvin Harrison Jr., if they can put up like 20 to 25 touchdowns, I think that people will be interested in Kyler Murray. Is Kyler Murray going to go to the Hall of Fame? No. Is Kyler Murray going to win a Super Bowl? Probably not. So here's the point. So should you buy Kyler Murray or not? Well, again, if you're looking at a short-term kind of sale flip situation, again, if you're a dealer, that's how you have to understand like the market. Well, who should you buy? I also said you should buy before the season started. I said Justin Herbert. I said this is his year if you're going to buy his cards. Buy them now. They're cheap and you can sell them on the back end. The reason is because Harbaugh is his coach. The Chargers are going to be very good under his stewardship. Now, who should you not buy? And here's that question. Again, I told a whole bunch of dealers at the beginning of the year, these are the players I would not buy. Joe Burrow. Do not buy Joe Burrow. Do not buy Josh Allen. They're done. In terms of their run, they're done. Cincinnati is gone. They have to rebuild their team at this point, and they can't get to the Super Bowl because they got to go through Kansas City. Now, here's my point. I think this is the last year for Kansas City. If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, I think that the dynasty is over. And that's because you have salary cap and you have players that just get older and you get players that get injured. It can't go on forever. So Kansas City has built up a dynasty. They are clearly unbelievable. And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, hands down. But Tom Brady didn't win a Super Bowl every single year. I mean, that's what you need to understand. Tom Brady played for 20 years. So Patrick Mahomes has a long way to go. So obviously, all of the Super Bowls he gets at the beginning of his career are critical if he wants to sustain it for the next decade. And the question is, can Mahomes get 4 or 5 more Super Bowls over the next 10 to 15 years? Clearly, that means he's not winning every single year. And that's what everybody needs to understand, is that when we start getting into this stratosphere of the GOATs, the real GOATs, and Tom Brady is legitimately the best football player that's ever played the game, just like Wayne Gretzky is the best hockey player that's ever played that game. And you also have Michael Jordan, who's the best basketball player to ever play that game. You have 3 legitimate GOATs in all 3 sports. There you go. Those are the names. So if you want to actually get into players that are going to be worth money in the future, those 3 players will be worth money in the future because their legacy is going to last for the next 50, 60, 70 years. But some of these other players are not going to make it in terms of cultural relevance. And that's what you need to understand as a collector in the long term, because a lot of you are card hoarders just like me. You hold on to cards way too long. You're not selling your stuff. You don't even know what your stuff is worth. That's why I hope that you subscribe to this channel. I hope that this all helped out as to why you should be a dealer. If you have questions about being a dealer or anything, put them down below, and let's get to Where's the Market? All right, in this week's Where's the Market, we're going to stay with the theme of how hard is it to be a dealer. And so one of the things you have to do in order to be a dealer is you have to price out your cards. So you need to know what these cards are selling for in order to put prices on in your table, so in your glass case. And the way that I do that is I am looking for the last 30 days of sales. And then after I do that, after I see what the sales are in the last 30 days, I also want to know what the lowest sale price was and the highest sale price. And that can be from any point. So hopefully it's within the last 6 months. Again, if cards aren't selling that much, some of the cards are, rare cards, so they don't sell as often, and therefore you might have to go back to a year ago, 2 years ago, like the 9.5 SGC Mickey Mantle that sold for 12.6 million. That sold in 2023. So that's it. Like, that's the last sale. And so if you want to know what other cards are worth, you kind of have to go back to that one. And that's already a year ago. It's going to be 2 years ago. So sometimes the sales are not close together, but a Mickey Mantle is being sold every single day, and some of these cards are being sold every single day as well. So again, my point being is that I want to do the last 30 days of sales. This is a Tom Seaver rookie. This is a Ricky Henderson rookie. Again, I would sell these in my case if I was a dealer, and the way that I would have them priced is I'd go through and look at the last 30 days of sales. Let me see all the sales, and I want to write them all down. None of this takes 3 seconds. I want to make this very, very clear. It's not easy being a dealer. In fact, you have to be so on top of the hobby that if you want to make money, you have to know what the cards are worth. Now, I've done 3 shows again. I used to be a dealer way back in the day, way back when I was a teenager from the age of 13 to 18. I did a show almost every single weekend for 5 years. And again, during the week, after school and after I played sports and all of these other things, I used to spend between 40 to 50 hours per week on sports cards. Yeah. How did I get all this stuff done? Well, that's what happens when you're a teenager. You just have all this energy, and it doesn't matter. You go to sleep at like midnight, and you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning for school, and it's like it never happened. It doesn't matter. I don't know how I did all of that, to be honest with you, but I did. And so my point being is when you know what stuff is worth, when you don't even have to do all that much research once you're on top of it. Because if you know what the last 30 days of sales are and you're doing a show, well, then you just need to stay current over the next 2 weeks. and then you know what the next month it's worth. So if you do another show, you already know what your cards are worth. Do you need to adjust them or not? Like, do you need to put this down or put it up? Sometimes cards get hot. When I talked about that a couple weeks ago, I talked about the Thurman Munson cards. So here's Thurman Munson. Again, he got hot over the last 2 months. So his cards are moving up. Again, not significantly. We're talking, 10, 20% to the upside. So if you were selling these cards, let's say, again, I'm not telling you what these cards are worth. I'm just giving an example, hypothetical. Let's say this card was worth $10. Well, now it's selling for $15. Okay, like that's my point. Let's say this one was $20. Okay, now it's selling for $25, $26. Like, this is my point, is that you would need to know that. Now, you could say, well, okay, well, it was worth 20. I could get 15. Now it's worth 25. You know what? I could get 20 for it, and you don't even have to change your price. You could just have 20 on it from the original. You weren't selling it then, but now that it's worth 25, the 20 price is, oh yeah, and someone just comes and picks it up for $20, and now you don't even know, why did someone buy that card? And that's what you need to understand as a dealer. If you price your cards and people are coming and buying the asking price, that means that you're selling the card literally at the optimal price because it's worth a little bit more than what you're selling it for. That's the psychology that you need to understand. If someone doesn't haggle with you, if someone comes to your table and buys a card for asking price, that means that you're under what the card is worth. You're under what the card is valued at. Now, some people in the hobby do not know how to value cards, and some people don't know how to comp cards. They go to the last sale on eBay and go, well, this card sold for this last time. Okay, but that's one sale. One sale is not a comp. You need at least 10 sales or the last 30 days. You can do either or. The last 10 sales or the last 30 days. Again, depending on if there's no other sales. And if there's no other sales in the last 30 days, I'd be suspect with like, okay, well, go to the last one and then try to find one before that if you can. If not, like let's say it's a 1 of 1, or let's say it's a 4 of 5 autograph patch card, go to a similar card in that set and see what it's selling for. Again, player to player is different. This is the problem with pricing out your cards, is that it's not an exact science. It's not an exact science. So you're gonna get it right, and sometimes you're gonna get it wrong. The whole point is, hopefully, if you understand what the cards are worth, again, this is why it's called Where's the Market segment. I want you to understand what the value of things are, what you should buy it for. So if you're looking at buying cards, you should know, well, what are these cards worth? Now, I see a lot of people on Reddit. Right now, there's a lot of people that are doing transfer of cards. Baby boomers are passing away and giving their cards to their kids and grandkids. Even Gen Xers now, who are now in their 50s and getting close to 60 years old, are starting to go, why do I have these cards? I don't need them, and they don't bring any value to my life. I get it. Like, I'm selling off as much as I possibly can so I can curate a collection that's meaningful, because having a hoard is not meaningful. It just doesn't matter. Why do I have all of this stuff? You hopefully are starting to recognize, getting rid of the hype machine of like, why do I have these cards? Why? There is value to them, yes, but it should be about appreciation. This is a hobby. It should be appreciated. You shouldn't keep this card because it's worth money. You shouldn't keep this card because it's worth money. You should keep this card because either you like the Mets, you like the 67 set, you like Tom Seaver. There's got to be something you like about this card. If there's nothing you like about the card but the value, sell it. Get the cash and go buy something that you appreciate. I don't understand why you would hold on to something just because it's worth money. I mean, seriously, you want a box of stuff that's worth money? Go sell it and get the money. It's not like this is going to, beat inflation. This is not going to beat inflation. You're better off buying gold. If that's your mindset, you're like, well, I want to beat inflation. I don't want to have cash. I want to buy cards. Wrong. Go buy gold. Gold is a much better bet to beat inflation than cards. In fact, buy gold right now, and I guarantee in 3 years from now, you'll have more cash and you could probably buy this card and still have the same amount of money with the excess cash that you get from gold. Like, some of you don't understand money at all. Again, this is not the way to make money. You can make money buying and selling cards, absolutely, but you got to have a dealer mindset in order to do that. You got to. I know that some people are like, well, I'm a flipper. No, you're not. You're a dealer. That's what you are. We need to get rid of the word flipping because it doesn't make any sense. You're a dealer. You're just a short-term dealer. You're not a long-term dealer. You're not going to shows all the time. You're selling online. You're an online dealer. That's what you are. And if we recognize the vocabulary and we talk about it the right way, then people start having a better understanding. If you're a dealer, not a flipper, you're a dealer, you're not going to overpay for cards. Why? Because you're going to lose money on the back end. So what is this card worth? Now, I have it priced, so here, this is honesty. So I have it priced at $22.50. The reason that it's priced that is because I was doing a show last year, well, 2024, but again, way back in March, okay? So this is before the summer, this is a while ago. So what the card was worth back then is not what it's worth now. What is it worth now? It's worth $2,000. So what could I sell this for? Realistically, I could sell it for $1,700 or $1,800. I would try to get 18, but to be honest with you, I probably would have to sell it for 17. So that's what you need to understand in terms of I've already lost a few $100s of value on this card. When this card was priced at $22.50, it was actually worth $2,300 to $2,400. So $22.50 was a good price. And if I got $2,100, I would take it. I'd be like, okay, that's a deal. And you would get a deal. Problem is, if you paid $2,100 for this card 6 months ago, you lost money. You lost money. And that's what I want everybody to start understanding is that at some point, it's a bubble. And you're still in this bubble. You need to come back down to earth. Some of the cards, I understand there's a hype machine behind them and people are spending a lot of money. If you're a dealer, again, somebody who buys cars to sell them, you need to know, okay, what is someone willing to pay? What is the limit to what someone will pay? But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the card is worth. And in some cases, you can take advantage of the fact that people will overpay for cards. And that's kind of the hobby. That's been the hobby for 40 years. And that's kind of the issue, is that you need to know as a collector, am I overpaying for this card or not? Because if you are overpaying for it, you need to know, do I want to overpay for this card or do I want to wait? Because at some point, again, no one's attention is going to be on these players forever. They're not going to be, like, no one is talking about Ricky Henderson every single day. At some point in the future, no one's going to talk about Shohei Ohtani. At some point in the future, we're not even going to talk about Tom Brady. Yes, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest football player ever to play the game. But we're not going to talk about him all the time. The reason is because he's not playing. He's not relevant to the game. And unless, the only reason we're talking about Tom Brady right now is because he's a horrible broadcaster. So his name is out there because he's on TV every single week and he can't broadcast games. Hopefully he figures it out. Tom, if you're watching this, please get in contact with me. I'd love to media coach you. I'd love to show you how to become a better broadcaster because I think you have so much knowledge and experience and expertise to give the football community. It would be great if you were an awesome broadcaster, but you really don't know what you're doing, and it sounds like no one's helping you. So I would love to help you, TB. But again, I'm a nobody on YouTube, and there's no way for me to get in contact with Tom Brady. But that's my point. My point is that if you don't know what the cards are worth, the likelihood that you're going to overpay for them goes up exponentially. And I don't want my subscribers to overpay for cards without knowing that you're overpaying for cards. I overpaid for a Doc Uden auto. You saw that. That was like a month ago. I overpaid for a Doc Gooden auto. I know that I overpaid. See, that's my point, is I know. Therefore, I made the decision. It's fine. I'm okay with it. But when you overpay for a card and then you realize, oh, I overpaid for that card, it's like a gut punch. You're like, now, I don't know. I don't watch the Geoff Wilson show regularly. In fact, I can't even get through any episodes at all. Unfortunately, he just doesn't structure his show very well. There's too much preamble. I want you to get into it. Jeff, I understand you don't know what you're talking about, so just get into whatever it is your topic is and let's move on. And he just did a show recently. I'll put the thumbnail here. I'll put the link down below, just if you want to watch it. He talked about his mistakes in the hobby, and all of them have to do with the fact that he doesn't know what cards are worth. And he's now starting to realize how much he doesn't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And Geoff Wilson didn't know anything when he started back in 2019. Literally nothing. And he spent millions of dollars on cards that were never worth that price tag. Never worth it. In fact, most of his collection is worth probably 30% of what he paid for it. So if he spent, and again, the estimates are he probably spent about $3.5 to $4 million on his collection, and it's probably worth $1 million. Like, that's a lot of money to lose just because you don't know what you're doing. Now, I know a lot of you, my subscribers, probably don't have $1 million to waste. Again, I ran this community poll. I want to thank everybody for answering it because it really gives me a better understanding of who the collectors are. So if you're a collector right now, go answer this poll. I'm going to leave it up for this week, and then I'm going to change it to something else. So go answer this poll because I want to know how big your collection is so I understand where you're coming from. And that's what the community polls are all about. It's giving you a voice to me so that I know, oh, these are the issues that you probably worry about. These are the things that you probably think about. And most of my audience is not big time collectors. Most of my audience is small collections, probably similar to mine, anywhere between $1,000 to maybe like $10,000 or $20,000. And that's a normal size collection. It's a nice collection, but it's a normal size collection. It is not $500,000 to $1 million or beyond. Like I'm saying, Geoff Wilson's collection is probably worth $1 million. Again, that's nothing to sneeze at. The problem is that he spent $3 to $4 million to get there. So, I mean, if you were going to overpay, I'll put it this way. I could have gotten his whole collection by spending maybe $1.5 to $1.75 million, which means that he would have had another $1.5 million left in the bank to do whatever he wants right now. Imagine having another $1.5 million in your bank because you didn't overpay that much for your cards. I would still overpay for those cards, but just not at the level that he did. He bought Michael Jordan's and LeBron James literally at the bubble hype price, and I'm looking at him going, when he bought those cards, I was like, why are you buying those cards? Like, none of those cards had any relevance, had any valuation at the level that people were paying for them. And that's the thing, is you need to be able to decipher between hype and value. Hype and value. That's what I want you to do. All right, let's get to the card of the week, and then we'll get to your viewer comments at the end. This week's card of the week is the 1948 Leaf Warren Spahn rookie card. Warren Spahn played 21 seasons with the Boston and Milwaukee Braves from 1942 to 1965. The Hall of Famer was the 1957 Cy Young Award winner, 17-time All-Star, and also won the World Series in 1957. It's viewer comment time, and yes, we have some awesome comments. So I alluded to this comment before. I'm going to get to this one at the end, so I want to make that very clear. So don't click away. I'm going to actually answer this one at the last comment. So let's get to the first one. This is from John Maybe. He says, great video. I hope your mom is doing okay after her surgery. You know what? Thank you so much, John. Yes, she is doing much better. I appreciate all the well wishes from everybody on this channel. Again, 2,000 subscribers. It's a great gift. And yes, unfortunately, for those of you who care, I don't know if you do, but my father passed away back in 2011. So I only have my mom at this point. So she is doing fine. We are all good, and I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's get to the next comment. This is from the King of the Blitz, which, again, I love some of these YouTube names. Again, that's an awesome name. So here we go. How do I sell my cards? Sometimes a card takes a long time to sell. Any tips? This is probably is this the most frequently asked question in the hobby? I don't know. It might be up there. I mean, top 5, right? How do I sell my cards? Some cards sell quick. Some cards don't sell so fast. Here's the piece, and certainly how do I answer this question? Let's break it down for a second. So it's a lot easier to sell cards if you have a big audience. And the reason is because people only buy what they want. And in a hobby, you have to have something that somebody else wants in order to pay for it. It doesn't mean price. Forget about price for right now. Like, I'm going to go back to this. So this is a Fernando Valenzuela sealed cello pack, okay? Only if you're a Dodger fan, and only if you're a Fernando Valenzuela fan, and only if you're a 1981 Topps fan, do you want this product. So that's a very niche audience. And because I have 2,000 subscribers, that means that I'm a niche of a niche of a niche. I don't have a big enough audience to reach everyone that wants these things. That's the reason why I created the Google Forms, was to kind of build a bigger audience for you guys. So yes, King of the Blitz, if you want help selling your cards, fill out the Google form and share those links. Share the Google form in all of your social media posts. Anybody else that's watching this, share those Google Forms. The more people that come here, what I want to be able to do, especially in the Where's the Market section, is I want you guys to come on here and start basically showing off the cards you want to sell. I would love to see the cards that you have in your PC, but let's sell off your cards first. Let's get rid of the horde first. So that's honestly my initial goal, is to help you guys sell off some of your cards. And you can do that in a segment right here. So if you want to sell your cards, please reach out to me on IG or X, EDI Sports Cards. Let me know what you're trying to sell. If you see people on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram, on X trying to sell their cards and they inherited cards, they don't know what to do with them, please tell them about this channel and let me get them on the show. Let me show all of the stuff that they've got and we can walk through how we sell this stuff. To be honest, the easiest way is just to talk to the buyer directly. That's how you're going to get the most amount of money. That's how you're going to sell the cards. Now, you may not be able to sell everything, but you'll be able to get the most amount of money because you'll go directly to the collector. Collectors buying from collectors are going to pay the most you will get. If you have to go to a dealer, you're going to get 50 cents on the dollar. If you go to a collector, you'll get 70 to 75 cents on the dollar. That's a big difference. You're making another 25 cents per sale or 25% per sale. That's huge. So it could be the difference. If a card's worth $1,000, you're going to get $500 from a dealer or $750 from a collector. I mean, that's a lot. $250 extra is still a lot. Again, and the collector still gets a deal. That's how this works. So hopefully that all makes sense, and I appreciate the comment. Let's get to the next one. This is Crystal Lake State Showa, or HOA. I don't know. We'll see. All right, great video. Personally, I unsubscribe from a number of sports card influencer channels. I'm limited to 4 to 5 talking heads that I believe are honest and add value. So much get-rich-quick garbage was spewed in the past. That is, one, that's a mouthful, and two, spot on. Again, 100%. Yes. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of pump and potentially dump. There was a lot of money being spent from 2019 to 2022. And I talked about it in this show, even the great investor, Geoff Wilson, overpaid millions of dollars for his collection. There's nothing anyone can do about it. It's over and done with. It is what it is. That money is gone. Literally, that money is gone. It's unfortunate. I feel bad for Geoff Wilson, to be honest. I don't think that he understood what he was doing, and because he wasn't really listening to anyone, he wasted his money. I don't want any of you to do that, so that's why I do this channel. All right, let's get to the last comment, and this is the doozy. So this is the one that I showed you at the very beginning of the show. So here is from Salty Creel Fishing. All right, so thanks for the content. It is helpful and to the point. Buying wax and accumulating thousands of worthless cards is a waste. I agree. Building the 300 card PC is my priority focus now. It's working for me, but no way do I have 50K to work with. Collected from 1976 off and on throughout life. Had no idea what I was doing until 1989. My question to you is, which players' cards would be a good target to add to the PC if I had 300 to 500 to spend right now? I know the obvious suggestions are Mantles, Jordans, Otanis. I currently have 57 PC cards that I care about and enjoy, so I have room to add to it. My hoard is shrinking, and I'm investing in long-term cards that will hold their value. And definitely, kind regards, see you next Friday. Here we go. Honestly, one of the best questions ever. You guys, I might have the most intelligent subscribers on YouTube. Literally, the people that write comments on my channel are so good. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit spoiled here. I see comments on other people's channels and they're mean. They're disrespectful, they're rude, they're obnoxious, they're dumb. Not on my channel. I get really good comments. I'm so happy about that. I was a little nervous coming on YouTube going, all right, I don't know how this is gonna go, but let's see. This is a great comment. So here we go. Here's the answer. So the question, let's do the question again, because this is a good question. My question to you is, which players' cards would be a good target if I had $300 to $500? Here's the answer. No, you're thinking about it all wrong. Stop. Literally stop. No, it's not which players. You have to choose which players. That's actually why I'm working really hard to get this. I think I'm going to call it the EDI 100. Okay, these are the top 100 players that are most important to the hobby at this point. And then you choose the players you like the most. Forget about value. Forget about value. You're doing it all wrong. It's not about value. I talked about it in the episode, okay? So I'm gonna repeat it again. You should not hold on to this card because it's worth money. Do not hold on to cards because they're worth money. Hold on to cards because you like them. You're doing the 300 PC. Awesome. I'm failing at my 300 card challenge. Literally failing at it. But it's fun because paring down is fun. Choosing, do I keep this card? Do I keep this card or this card? Which ones do I want to keep? Why am I keeping them? I started filling in Gary Carter cards. So I've got his rookie, I've got his second year, third year, fourth year, and then I'm going, do I want all of his cards? And then I'm thinking, like, do I need all of his cards? Like, do I need his 1988 Topps card? Do I need it? And the answer is no, I don't need it. All that I'm looking for is trying to actually build a PC that speaks to me. So personally, I want his rookie card, his first, second. I want all the way till he gets to the New York Mets. And then I have an autograph card from the 86 set. And that's it. And then I'm done. I don't need other Gary Carter cards. I don't need them. And that's my point, is that you have to make that choice. That's what curating is all about. We're going to talk about that next week. The principles of curating a PC. How do you actually choose what you keep and what you get rid of? It should not be based on value. Throw value out the window when you're doing your PC. Literally, don't worry about what the cards are worth. When you're choosing the cards to keep, don't worry what they're worth. Just focus on the cards that you want to keep. Then when you put the other cards, so basically put all of the keep stuff in a pile, okay? So I have my keep stuff, I put it over here, and then everything else I'm going to sell. Then on the other stuff, that's when you worry about price. That's why I don't know what my PC right now is worth. I don't know the valuation. The reason why is because I don't care about what it's worth. I'm keeping it. So what it's worth in 5-10 years from now, why do I need to care right now? When you curate a PC, when you get it down, so Salty, if you get your PC down to 300 cards, then it's going to take you, like a day to price them out? 2 days? Like, don't worry about what they're worth right now. Worry about separating out what you want to keep from what you want to get rid of. Separate out the keep PC from the hoard that you're going to sell. That's when you worry about value, when it's gone. You're like, okay, I got rid of that. Did I get the value back? Whatever your PC cards are worth today, it doesn't matter because you're holding on to them. So it doesn't matter what they're worth today. What matters is what they're going to be worth in the future, and you're not going to know that until you get there. So when you decide, okay, let's say, and if you have 300 cards, like, I really don't think it matters. Like, who cares? It's 300 cards. It's not that big a deal. You can carry 300 cards in one card case. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine saying, like, hey, do you want to see my card collection? And you pull out a case, you open it up, and that's it. That's the whole collection. And people go, oh, okay. So, yeah, like, let's go through it. It's only 300 cards. Okay, hey, how long is this going to take? Like a couple hours? Hey, that sounds great. Hey, I want to show you mine. And if people with 300 card PCs could kind of get together and talk about their PCs, you could do that because it's not overwhelming. When you have 10,000, 13,000, 20,000 cards, you can't show it off. It's too big. That's it. So what cards should you buy? Well, here's the question that I'm going to ask you. Where are you from? What's your favorite sport? Who's your favorite team? Who's your favorite player? Do you like Ohtani? I don't have any Ohtanis in my PC. At the moment, I'm debating it because he's a 50-50. The 50-50 thing actually kind of tilted the scale in, like, I might want to put an Ohtani in there. I don't know which one. It'll be one card. I'm going to put one in. I'm going to put a Caitlin Clark in my PC. Why? Because she tilted the scale. She's that good. Am I going to get the most expensive card? No way. I'm not going to get the most expensive card. But she's going to get a representation in my PC. And that's what my PC is all about. My PC it's like partly like my favorite players, but it's also representation of historical sports. Like, I want my PC to reflect the eras, the decades. So I'm doing it decade by decade by decade, making sure that I have certain players by decade. That's why I have a 1987 Jose Canseco in my collection. That's why I have the 1990 score Bo Jackson. That's why I have some of these players that are not in the Hall of Fame. In fact, I have a lot of players from the 80s, and I'll put them on the screen here. So I have a lot of players from the 80s that are not Hall of Famers, but they're important for that decade. So I just have one card. That's it. That's all it is. In fact, the Fred McGriff just happened to go into the Hall of Fame, but I already had the Fred McGriff in my PC because he's the crime dog. Like, I mean, how could you not have him? And if you see, that's the picture right there. That's my photo of Fred McGriff from the 1992 All-Star Game. So I was already a fan of Fred McGriff. So having his rookie card, again from the 87 Topps Traded set, made perfect sense, and it's one card. That's why I'm having difficulty with the 300 card challenges, because I'm keeping one card of players, not necessarily because they're the rookie card. Again, I have the 87 McGuire, but I also have an 85 Olympic McGuire, which is signed. Again, you can see it on the screen. So that's my point, is you have to choose what cards you want to keep. Do not chase the hype. Do not chase the hobby. Do not chase the machine. Don't get sucked in. This is about your collection. You are in control of your collection. Don't let other people influence you as to what cards you should buy. If you're a football fan, you should have a football PC. If you're a baseball fan, you should have a baseball PC. I am a sports fan, so I have a baseball PC, I have a football PC, I have a hockey PC, and I have a basketball PC. My baseball PC is my largest section. Hockey is second, and then in football, and then basketball. But I have cards, so I have a number of Kobe Bryants. I don't have the most expensive ones, and I don't have his rookie. I don't like his rookie, so I don't have it. I have other cards. I have cards that I like. Now, will I keep all of those Kobe's? Maybe. I might pare it down after I get through the first initial pare down. I might pare it down even more. Again, the point is that you should only keep the cards that you actually want. Don't worry about what they're worth. Don't worry about what they're worth. So if you're $300 to $500, honestly, that's a lot. I would make a list of all the cards, go back 2-3 weeks. Go watch all of these shows from September through now. Go watch all of those episodes and watch me go through how you actually put all this stuff together, how you get a list and price them all out. You may actually be able to buy all the cards you want for $500. Imagine that. Imagine just having a list and going, you know what, I could buy all of these cards for $500. In fact, if you could find one dealer, you could probably get them for less than $500 if they're worth $500, because you're spending $500 and you're getting a whole bunch of cards, and probably a lot of them are not worth maybe more than $5. And so a dealer's like, ooh, I can get rid of inventory. Yeah, I'll give you a bit of a discount. I want 30 cards, and they're looking and they're like, they're $5 each. Well, that's $150. He might be like, yeah, I'll give it to you for $120. You just saved $30. That's 6 cards for free. That's 6 cards for free. A guy on eBay, and most of eBay is horrible, but there are some really good people on eBay, and I've highlighted those sellers here on this channel. But one guy from eBay, I bought a 1991 Topps set, because I was looking for certain players, and it just was more cost effective to just buy the whole set. And so that's what I did. I bought the whole set, And I also wanted to get a Gary Carter, a third year Gary Carter. Again, third year. We're talking like a $2.50 card. And so I said to him, I said, I'll give you $2 for the card, just to make the numbers. So, he was selling the set for an even number, it was like $6. And I said, I'll give you $2 for the Gary Carter card. So it's $8 total. And he was literally like, yeah, just buy the set. I said, okay. He's like, yeah, I'll throw in the Gary Carter for free. I was like, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And that's the kind of thing that this hobby should be about, is that I'm buying something, I'm trying to pay for something else, and then all of a sudden somebody says, you know what, hey, here you go. I appreciate those kinds of things, and you should appreciate those things. I hope that everybody starts to do these things. When I was a dealer, I gave cards away to kids. Absolutely. When you're behind the table, a kid comes up and he's like, I'll give you $1 for these cards. The cards are worth $5 or $10. And it's like, yeah, okay. It's a kid. Great comment. Awesome. Don't forget, next week, we're going to go over the principles of curating a PC. I want to thank everybody for joining me. We have 2,000 subscribers now. I cannot believe it. When we started this 2 years ago, did you ever think we would get to this point? It is amazing. You are to thank for that. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is Doc saying I will see you next week. Have a great weekend.
There's only one show I wanna watch. H-O-B-B-Y.